Hey, what's up, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time, in my opinion, is a pretty crazy one, pretty good one. I hope you guys enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do. And yeah, today's story time is about how my crazy neighbor showed up at my house in the middle of the night, stalking me basically. And yeah, I'm not going to give away too many details. Let's just jump right into today's story time. Leave a like on the video if you enjoy it, and let's jump into this. So this story time takes place back in 2017, okay? Now the reason I thought about this story time is I might be moving again soon, not too sure, but thinking about moving had me thinking about all of the reasons I've moved before, and this being one of them. And yeah, I'm sure some of you watching that have been watching for a long time are probably like, Austin, you move more than anybody I know, like seriously. And yeah, that may be true, but I have my reasons. And yeah, today's story time is one of those reasons. So 2017, around this time I was living in both LA and New York. I would go back and forth all the time. I've talked about that a lot. And I was paying rent for two places. I was renting an apartment in LA and a house in New York. So I was hanging out at my house in New York around this time, visiting home for a few weeks, hanging out with a few friends of mine. Now, most of my friends were staying at my house during this time, but of course, the one night that I'm alone, this had to happen. So this all starts off as a normal night. I'm alone in my house, playing some video games in my room, and the game that I was playing is CSGO. Now, anybody that plays CSGO probably knows how frustrating it can get. And yeah, I was at a comp game, and I was doing very, very, very bad, okay? Like, not one of my good comp games. And yeah, I just was losing, and I was really angry, and every time I would die in the game, I would yell. Now, the funny part about this is I wasn't queued up with any of my friends. I was literally playing CS by myself. I was solo queuing, so all of my teammates were random people that I'd never talked to before. So to them, I was just some random angry guy that every time he would die in the game would yell. And the funniest part is I wasn't even yelling words. I would die and just yell, ah, like just A-H-H, just scream. So after I got done with this comp game, I was not playing any more CS. I was frankly just too angry and bad. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take a break. I'm just going to sit in bed and listen to some music. So as I lay down in bed after playing CS, trying to unwind from that awful game I had, I hear a knock on my door. And at this point, I get a little bit nervous because it's 2 in the morning where I'm at. So the fact that somebody's knocking at my door at 2 in the morning when I didn't invite anybody over and I was completely home alone really terrified me. Like, I can't lie. I was extremely scared. So I get up and I tiptoe out of my room trying to be really quiet. I'm looking out all my windows trying to see my porch to see who's on my porch. And I finally get up to my kitchen window, and I peek out the blinds of the kitchen, and I see this random older guy standing on my porch. And I've never seen this guy before. So I immediately start thinking, I'm like, what the hell? Like, who's on my porch right now? Who is this guy? I've never seen this guy before. Now, if any of you ever have a random guy appear on your porch at 2 in the morning, knocking on your door while you're home alone, don't answer it. That's just not something you answer. But me being stupid and thinking, okay, this guy looks pretty harmless, I answered the door. Like, without second thought, I just answered the door. Thinking okay, this guy's a little bit older, he's probably just a neighbor or something, I'll just answer the door. Now, I had no idea if he was for sure a neighbor or anything. For all I know, he could have been someone there to just rip my head off and then eat my corpse. But no, I just answered the door thinking it was a harmless neighbor. So I answer my door and I make my voice deeper on purpose to try and make it sound like he woke me up, because I didn't want to look like some crazy person that was awake all night playing CSGO, even though that's exactly what I was. So I answer the door and I'm like, hey, what's up? What's going on? And he's like, hey man, sorry, I'm your neighbor next door. And when he said that, I was very relieved. I can't lie, I was so relieved to hear that he was my neighbor and not some random guy just lurking in my neighborhood. And I was like, yeah, what's up? And he goes, listen man, I heard screaming coming from next door. Can you please keep it down? I'm trying to sleep. Now that really confused me, because if I was somebody's neighbor, okay, and I heard my neighbor screaming in their house, the first thing I'd do would not be to knock on their door and tell them to basically shut up. I would probably call the police because it sounds like someone might be in danger and just make sure that everybody's okay. But no, he knocked on my door and he's like, hey man, can you keep it down? So I reply to him and I'm like, yeah man, I was playing a video game, I was kind of yelling, I'm sorry, I'll keep it down. Just trying to be as polite as I could. And he just looks me in my eyes with the most dead inside look, just completely no expression whatsoever, and goes, okay, and turns around and just walks off my porch. It was so creepy. Not like an, okay, thanks man, have a good night, or alright, thank you, just, okay, turns around and walks away. So I'm like, okay, so I just shut my door. I lock my door, I use both locks, and then I go to my room, I lock my window, I go to my sliding glass door, I lock that. I was very, very, very just scared, okay? He was giving very strange, creepy energy, okay? So after that, I go back into my room, I jump back on my computer, and I join my friend's Discord call, and I was like, yo, you are never gonna guess what happened. Now, this friend of mine lives 2 miles away, so he's a hometown friend, and I was like, yo, this neighbor just came up to my door because I was yelling in CS, And he wasn't concerned about the fact that his neighbor was screaming in his house. He was just, trying to sleep and was complaining to me and gave off an insanely creepy vibe when I told him I would be quiet. And my friends who were in the Discord call, including my friend that lives like 2 miles away, was laughing about it. He was like, don't worry about him, bro. Like, he's probably not going to come back. It's just a noise complaint. Like, you're fine. You're probably just overreacting. Which he was completely right. I was thinking about it more, and I was like, I definitely am overreacting. Like, it was just someone giving a noise complaint. Like, he's not going to bother me again. Whatever. But boy, was I wrong, okay? Because no joke, an hour later, little did I know that he would be back. So I'm in this Discord call an hour later talking to my friends, and of course, we're all playing CS again, but this time it was going a lot different. I was doing fairly okay, and also when I wasn't doing very good, I wasn't yelling and screaming because I knew that my neighbor would probably hear me, and also I wasn't worth getting that angry. I was just trying to stay as calm as I could and just enjoy the game. But then something insanely creepy happened, okay? So like 10 minutes after the game's over, I get up to go grab water, and I'm in my kitchen just grabbing water out of my fridge, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see a light flash on my porch. Like through the blinds, I could see a really bright light flashing on my porch real quick. So I quickly run over to my blinds and I peek through them, and I am greeted to an image that terrified me, okay? I just see a bright light and my neighbor's face, just face to face with me through this window, staring into my house, or attempting to stare into my house. And then our faces just meet, our eyes lock, and I immediately jump backwards because I was so terrified. So I run over to my front door and I open it up and I yell out. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I told you to keep it down. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I haven't made any loud noise whatsoever. Like, there's no way you could hear me at all. Like, you got the wrong house or something, man. Like, what are you doing out here? And he goes, no, I know what I heard. It came from this house. You're screaming again. I'm like, dude, no, I'm not. Like, on everything I love. First of all, even if I was screaming again, that doesn't warrant you to come onto my porch and peek through my windows with a flashlight. What are you doing? And he goes, I'm just seeing where you're at. And I'm like, all right, you have to get off my property right now. Like, seriously, right now. And I quickly shut my door and lock it because I did not trust this guy whatsoever. Like, the fact that he was trying to peek through my window without knocking and just, like, creep on me and be all stalker-like just made me real uncomfortable. So I shut the door and I lock it, and he slowly tries to walk over to my window again and peek through it, and I bang on the window with my fist as hard as I could to scare him away, and he immediately jumps back and walks off my porch. And after that, he walks back to his house. I watch him walk over there, and he goes into his house. And then, of course, being all creepy like again, I see him start peeking out his window, his bedroom window that looks across to my bedroom window where my computer was. And he's just staring at me through his window, through his blinds, with his lights on. It was so creepy. I had my lights off, so he couldn't see me very well, at least I don't think he could. But it was still so weird to see him looking through his window like that, trying to find me. So anyway, after that happened, like an hour went by, and I was just being super careful. I kept checking out my window because I was so paranoid. And the whole rest of that night was pretty normal. There wasn't anything else from him. But the next morning is when things get a little bit weirder, okay? So the next morning, or afternoon I should say, I wake up at like 12 p.m., I get up, I get dressed, and I hear a knock on my door. So I immediately walk over to my door, and I peek out the window before opening it because I was still very on edge from the night before, and I see my neighbor walking down my driveway. So I open the door and I'm about to yell like, hey, what's up? Because I thought he needed me. But when I open my door, a letter falls onto the ground on my porch. So I quickly grab the letter and I shut the door and I open up the letter, and it's from my neighbor. And it says, Dear neighbor, I have my eye on you. Keep it down. And that was just creepy and confusing because, like I said, the night before, I was being so quiet after I yelled the first time because I was trying to be considerate of my neighbor and just not get very angry at the game and yell. And I was extremely quiet. I was only talking, I'd say at like this level. I was talking like this quiet. And you can't hear from across the yard like that. My house had pretty good insulation, so I know for a fact that he was not hearing me talk in my own room. That makes no sense. Now, the yelling was one thing because I was really screaming. I was making a lot of noise, but my talking voice was way quieter. I don't think he heard that. I think he was just trying to look for a problem. Or there's a huge chance that it was never me he heard to begin with. Our neighbors on the other side of him were all in a frat, and they'd have parties like every night. So that's another thing that could have happened. But either way, after that, he kept being creepy. I'd see him walking around at night, like walking around the neighborhood with his flashlight, and he was just being super strange. Like every time I'd look out my window at nighttime and his light was on, I'd see him peeking out his window towards my house. It was so creepy that finally after like a few months, another weird thing happened with him, and then I just had to move out. It was just too creepy. So yeah, maybe I'll tell a part 2 to this story time or another creepy neighbor story time very soon because he did something else that was just as, if not way more creepy than this story time. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for today's story time. I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace.